Sex and the City. The show that defined an entire generation of women who wanted independence, pleasure, and unfiltered conversations about sex. But would this same show survive today? Could Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha exist in 2026 without being completely torn apart on social media? Hello there, and welcome to the Night Cut, where we watch in the dark but see everything. Because here, nothing gets past us. We pause, rewind, and analyze frame by frame. If there's a screen, there's a story, and stories deserve to be dissected. Now, this is my reading, my interpretation of what I watched, rewatched, and analyzed, but I want to hear yours too. Disagree, agree, got another theory? Drop it in the comments because I'll be there. I love a good discussion. Let's get into it. If you hang around any corner of the internet where people discuss pop culture, you've seen this question pop up: would Sex and the City be canceled today? And opinions are fiercely divided. Some people defend the show with everything they've got, saying it was revolutionary. Others look back and think, my God, how did we watch this? But I want to go beyond the easy answer. I want to look episode by episode, scene by scene, and understand what's really happening here. Because it's not black and white. It never is. Let's start with what the show did well, and this is undeniable. When Sex and the City premiered in 1998, women talking openly about sex on TV was shocking. Carrie asking, I couldn't help but wonder, where is my happy ending? Wasn't just about romance, it was about autonomy. It was about women putting their needs first. The show depicted women having sex without guilt. Women choosing not to have children. Women prioritizing their careers. Women having explicit conversations about orgasms, vibrators, pornography. This was important. It was necessary. It opened a door that had been closed for way too long. But here's the thing, doing something important in 1998 doesn't give you a free pass forever. And when we look at it through 2026 eyes, some things become impossible to ignore. First thing, diversity. Or rather, the lack of it. The show is set in New York, New York. One of the most diverse cities on the planet. And yet, practically everyone who appears on screen is white, thin, wealthy, and heterosexual. The few people of color who do appear are often reduced to stereotypes or exotic curiosities. Now, I know what you're going to say. But it was a different time, it was. But that doesn't change the fact that it was wrong. Will and Grace was on the air at the same time, showing gay characters with depth and complexity. So it wasn't impossible. The Sopranos had more nuanced portrayals of Italian-American culture. ER had diverse casts and storylines. So the excuse of it was the 90s doesn't really hold up. And look, I'm not talking about representation just for the sake of it. I'm saying that when you create a show about modern women in New York and basically ignore that black women, Latina women, Asian women, plus-size women exist. You're not telling the story of New York. You're telling the story of a very specific, very privileged group of people. And pretending that's universal? That's the problem. Let's talk about a specific episode. Season 3, Episode 4, Boy, Girl, Boy, Girl. Carrie dates a bisexual guy and her reaction is basically to treat him like he's from another planet. The show tries to sell this as Carrie being open-minded, but the real message is, bisexuality isn't real, it's just a phase before you admit you're gay. The episode literally ends with Carrie saying she's not even sure bisexuality exists. And this isn't presented as ignorance. It's presented as reasonable skepticism. Like Carrie is being the voice of reason here, in 2026, this episode would be eviscerated. And rightfully so. Because bisexuality is real, it's valid, and dismissing it as confusion is biphobic, period. Another example, Season 4, Episode 11, Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda. Miranda discovers she's pregnant and considers having an abortion. And the show actually handles this fairly maturely. It shows that it's a difficult, personal decision. And that there's no right answer. Miranda decides to keep the baby. But the show doesn't judge her for considering abortion. But here's the problem, right after this. Charlotte can't get pregnant and is devastated. And the show kind of puts these two situations side by side as if it's saying, look at the irony. One doesn't want it and has it, the other wants it and can't have it. Like the universe is doing some kind of cosmic justice. This is problematic because it treats abortion as something selfish or wasteful, instead of simply a personal medical choice. It creates this false equivalency that if you have an abortion, you're somehow taking something away from women who want to be mothers. And that's not how reproductive rights work. Now let's talk about the pink elephant in the room, Carrie and Big. I made an entire video about why Big would never give Samantha a chance, but I need to talk about how this show sold the most toxic relationship on television as if it were true love. Big treats Carrie poorly for 6 entire seasons. He's emotionally unavailable, won't acknowledge the relationship in public, cancels plans at the last minute, disappears without explanation. And when Carrie is finally moving on, he comes back. Always comes back. Not because he's changed, but because he can't stand to see her happy without him. And the show romanticizes this. Let's look at Season 2, Episode 12, La Dollar Exquise. Actually, no, wait. Let me back up. Let's look at their entire pattern. Big pursues Carrie. Carrie falls for him. Big pulls away. Carrie chases. Big gets uncomfortable. They break up. Carrie moves on. Big sees her happy. Big comes back, repeat. This isn't love. This is a cycle of emotional manipulation. And the worst part, the show frames Carrie as the problem. She's too needy. She's too emotional. She expects too much. But let's look at what she's actually asking for. She wants him to introduce her to his mother. Reasonable. She wants to know if they're exclusive. Reasonable. She wants him to tell her he loves her after they've been dating for months. Reasonable. These aren't outrageous demands. These are basic relationship expectations. But Big treats them like she's asking him to donate a kidney. And you know what the show does? It makes us think Carrie needs to change. She needs to be cooler. More like Samantha, who doesn't need men. Because God forbid a woman actually want emotional intimacy from her partner. In 2026, people would watch this and say, this is a red flag the size of the Statue of Liberty. But the show treats it as complicated. Treats it as passion. Treats it as destiny. Like they're supposed to be together because they keep coming back to each other, when really they keep coming back because neither of them has done the work to break the cycle. And let's be real about the Paris situation. Big is married to Natasha, and he's having an affair with Carrie. And when Natasha finds out and literally gets hurt, she falls and chips her tooth running after Carrie. The show treats this as Carrie's emotional journey. Don't get me wrong, the scene where Carrie helps Natasha is powerful. Carrie is clearly horrified by what she's done. But the show never really makes her reckon with the fact that she participated in destroying someone's marriage. It's treated more like an unfortunate accident rather than a deliberate choice she made repeatedly. Another point that aged terribly, the way the show deals with body weight and appearance. Samantha making jokes about gaining 5 pounds like it's the end of the world. Miranda being called masculine because she's assertive. Charlotte being treated as perfect because she fits a very specific standard of femininity: thin, conventionally pretty, soft-spoken, wants to be a wife and mother. And Carrie wears a size 10, and the show constantly has her say things like, I've been so bad this week after eating a cupcake. As if eating is a sin. As if her body, which is already extremely thin by any standard, needs to be controlled and monitored. There's an episode where Samantha dates a guy who's fat, and I'm using the show's language here, not mine. And the entire episode treats his weight as this huge obstacle she has to overcome. Not his personality. Not compatibility. His weight. And the punchline is basically, look how noble Samantha is for dating a fat guy. In 2026, this would be identified immediately as toxic diet culture. Because that's exactly what it is. The show perpetuates this idea that there's only one acceptable way for women to look, and anything outside of that is either a joke or a tragedy. Now let's talk about money. Because nobody talks about this enough, and it drives me insane. Carrie Bradshaw writes one column per week for a newspaper. One. And with that income, she has an apartment in Manhattan, a closet full of $1,000 shoes, eats out every single day, takes cabs everywhere, buys designer clothes constantly. The math simply doesn't math. And the show never acknowledges this. It never shows Carrie genuinely struggling financially, except in that one episode where she doesn't have money for the apartment down payment and big offers to help. I've spent $40,000 on shoes and I have no place to live. I will literally be the old woman who lived in her shoes. And you know what happens? Charlotte gives her the money. Problem solved. No real consequences. Carrie doesn't have to change her spending habits. She doesn't have to get a second job. She doesn't have to make any real sacrifices. She just gets bailed out. This creates a dangerous fantasy. It makes it seem like you can live beyond your means and there will always be someone to save you. That financial irresponsibility is quirky and charming rather than a serious problem. In 2026, with an entire generation struggling with debt, student loans, impossible cost of living, rent prices that make you weep, this would be seen as completely out of touch with reality. Because it is, and before someone says it's just a TV show, it's fantasy. Yes, it is, but fantasies shape our expectations. They shape what we think is normal, what we think is achievable. And showing a woman with no financial literacy living a luxury lifestyle with no consequences, that has real-world impact. But here's the thing, and this is important. Criticizing Sex and the City doesn't mean erasing its importance. The show opened doors. Period. It showed that audiences wanted to see complex, flawed, sexual women. It proved that stories centered on female friendship could be commercial successes. It normalized conversations that were previously considered taboo. Without Sex and the City, we probably wouldn't have Girls. We wouldn't have Fleabag. We wouldn't have Insecure. We wouldn't have Broad City. All of these shows drink from the well that Sex and the City created, even if they've evolved into something better, something more inclusive, something more honest. And that's exactly what we need to understand. Criticizing isn't canceling. Criticizing is recognizing that things can be important and problematic at the same time. These two truths can coexist. Sex and the City was revolutionary in 1998. But revolutionary is relative to its time. And times have changed. We've changed. Our understanding of representation, of healthy relationships, of financial reality, of body image, all of it has evolved. And you know what? That's a good thing. That's growth. That's progress. If the show were released today, exactly as it is, yes, it would be criticized harshly. But would it be canceled? Honestly, I don't know. Because cancellation isn't as simple as the internet makes it seem. It's not a light switch. It's a complex cultural conversation. What I do know is that the show would have to be completely different. More diverse. More conscious. More honest about money, about toxic relationships, about the privileges these for women have simply by being white, thin, financially comfortable, and conventionally attractive. And look, and just like that tried to make some of these corrections. It brought in non-white characters. It addressed issues of gender identity and sexuality. It tried to reckon with the original show's blind spots. But a lot of people feel it's too little, too late. Or that it feels forced. That these diverse characters are just there to check boxes rather than being fully realized people with their own stories. Maybe that's true. Or maybe it's just uncomfortable to see something we loved being confronted with its own failures. Maybe we're resistant to change because we have fond memories attached to the original, and change feels like those memories are being invalidated. But they're not. You can still love something and acknowledge its problems. You can still appreciate what it meant to you while recognizing it wasn't perfect. That's maturity. That's critical thinking. Because at the end of the day, this is the real question Sex and the City raises in 2026. Not would the show be canceled, but can we love something and still recognize its flaws? I believe we can. I believe we can watch Sex and the City, appreciate what it did well, laugh at the jokes that still land, and at the same time say this wasn't okay when the problematic moments appear. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be complicated. Because life is complicated. People are complicated. And the art they create, also complicated. Sex and the City is a product of its time. And that's not an excuse, it's context. Important context that helps us understand not just the show, but how far we've come and how far we still need to go. So, would it be canceled today? Maybe not canceled. But it would definitely be very, very different. And honestly, that's good. It means we've evolved. It means we've learned. It means we're demanding more from our stories and the people who tell them. And if that bothers you, maybe it's worth asking, why? Why does it bother you that things are getting better? Why does it bother you that we're holding media to higher standards? Because here's what I think, defending something from the past isn't always nostalgia. Sometimes it's fear. Fear of admitting that we didn't see the problems then. Fear of acknowledging that we laughed at jokes that hurt people. Fear of recognizing that we accepted things we shouldn't have. And that's uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. But it's necessary. I couldn't help but wonder, is defending something from the past really nostalgia, or is it fear of admitting we were wrong all along? Thanks a ton for watching my video. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Sex and the City in 2026. Do you think it would be canceled? Do you still watch it? What changed in the way you see the show? Leave some comments down below so we can chat about it, and drop a subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you have suggestions for the next cut, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.